Okay, so let's put in a marker here to begin with. Today we are going to continue working on the frame rate limiter that we tried to put in last time, and it kind of worked. We're limiting ourselves to about 100 frames per second, but it's not quite like what we were going for because we were hoping to get. Well, here we have. Well, this is not exactly what it was. I think down near in, let's see, so updates. Yeah, we're doing this entire check time where we're trying to set our target frames per second to 60. But that's not really working. Like, it's not actually targeting our time to 60. However, one thing I was wondering about is, does the yield function that we saw on timer, does that go in here? Like, if at the end of this, can I then do, what is it, timer yield now? Yields the current time slice to OS. This just calls center thread yield now, but it's handy to have. Well, so like if I do this, will that like take up the rest of the time and actually slow the system down? And then is there anything else that I'm doing? So here I'm sleeping for the remainder of the time. I don't want to do that. And we're doing self.draw FPS. Okay, so we're drawing the frames per second, so that's good. Timer sleep, remaining update time. Yeah, so we were attempting to do that too, but it wasn't quite what we wanted to do. So if I do this, okay, or I could accidentally do Command L instead of, yeah, what I was trying to do. So that's cool. All right. Sorry about blanking out the screen. I don't know what you were able to see during that. I accidentally did Command L, which locked the screen instead of, I guess, typing cargo run. I don't even know where that would have come from. Okay, so this one, we are getting 215 or so frames per second here. Like 215 and 220. Still a lot more than what I was getting before. But I'm not trying to do a sleep this time. So there is that. And like we do drop frames when like the trees come on because like this is a lot of stuff to draw on at the same time. And GGEZ is not the most efficient when it's drawing frames in develop mode. In release mode, it's significantly better, which is why we're seeing those like 2,000 frames per second. But it's not really like the yield now isn't working the way we want it to. It makes me wonder, like, do I need a loop? Do I need a loop through to see like, okay, loop until like yield, like what does that yield time slice actually do? Let's come back. This isn't doing the thing that we want to do. This while loop isn't doing what we want to do. And this timer sleep, timer remaining time update. So I'm thinking what we want to do is at the beginning, and perhaps we could, I don't have a, there. Perhaps what we can do is take a look at the documentation for, oh no, it's going to be the GGEZ documentation, right? We'll go to crates. And I wanted to take a look at the main game loop. So I think that's the event handler. Because we remember that there's this require. Okay, yes, this is the trait event handler. Required methods. There's updates and draw. And if we take a look at the event handler, so update and draw, these are the things that we have to implement. Interesting. Okay. You probably want to start this with graphics clear, graphics function clear, and end it with graphics present, and maybe a timer yield now. Okay. So they're suggesting a timer yield now at the end of draw. Where did I put that before? Did I put it right here? I don't remember if I put it here or in the update loop. But if I do that, so like 225 frames per second. And release mode is getting like another like 2,300 frames per second. I am curious. Let me try. I want to open up the task manager. I don't know if that'll show anything bad. I'm going to put it on the other screen here. Okay, so if I run you in release mode, I'm checking to see what is taken up. It's 11.5% of my CPU. Like 39 megabytes of memory. %70 of my GPU. Power usage very high. Okay. I mean, that's actually not terrible. And the fans aren't kicking up as high before. So it's heavy GPU usage. So, I mean, I am using the GPU quite a bit for this. If I quit that, and we don't have this timer yield now. And I run this again. Still only around, I mean, it started at like 11 and it's down to 6.8% CPU usage. Memory is about the same, 38.8. GPU is 69. So that yield now doesn't seem to be doing anything for us. And I wonder if we need something else for it to do something. But all right. The other option that I had here is like the actual sleep. Like I want to sleep for some number of milliseconds. And so if let's change this around. We'll do this as target FPS, which is a U32, which is 1000 divided by 60. Sure, let's target 60 frames per second because we know that both sides can hit that pretty easily. Target FPS, I don't want to like store that as a duration, but I'm gonna need to store start and end. And I think what we can see here is under run, So we have event handler. Okay, so here's public function run. Is this not part of the, it's not part of the trait, okay. So while context continuing, so increment the tick. So poll what events have happened. Events loop. Where does that come? Oh, that comes from, it gets handed in. So it handles the input essentially, like whatever events are happening, like the mouse position, everything else. So it's handling all the inputs and figuring that out. It handles gamepad events if there are any. Then it runs update. Then it runs draw, and that's it. Like that's all it does. Then it just starts over again. So the earliest. Unfortunately, I can't see like when we're starting here. I don't think. Because the context I don't believe gives us when the loop starts. I think just that the timer tick. We can right here start a timer at the end of here, end timer, and then sleep at the end of draw because that's the very last thing that happens. But it's not going to be true because the rest of this is going to take time too. But we don't know how long this time is taking, and we can't figure out. We can't figure out when, like, yeah, we're not going to be able to figure out what this really is. And off of context timer, I can figure out the previous loop, like how long the previous frame took, but that would include these things. And I don't necessarily want to sleep for that. Unless I sleep at the beginning of the loop. Would that make sense? If at the beginning of here, so my code starts here at the update. If I, like the first thing if I do is sleep for however long the previous frame took, subtracted from, let's try this. So let's try sleeping. Try limiting the frame rate. Okay, so let's first get how long the last frame was. So let last frame time equals, I guess it would be a duration. So timer. So delta, get the time between the start of the last frame and the current one. In other words, the length of the last frame. Okay, so this gives us the delta, and we hand it the context. Now I want our duration to be our, if I subtract our target frames per second, that would do that. Okay, so let's, in here, let's not have you. I think I do want to have a, my target frames per second is the standard time duration. Target frames per second. Standard time duration, seconds is 1000 divided by 60. No nanoseconds, because I don't know how to do that calculation yet. But this would be 1/60th of a second, or 0.16, like 16.66 milliseconds or so. So target FPS. Bare Knuckles Waffle, good morning. Also Chantilly, good morning. Okay, so we have the last frame duration. Oh, do I not have timer in here? Let's go ahead and use. Whoa, how did I delete? Okay, did I accidentally delete? I did. I somehow deleted all of my stuff. That's not cool. And we have timer in here from before. Okay, so save that. So we get the duration, and then we get the time we want to sleep. So doing it like we're here actually limits the updates to the frames per second. If you want to limit the draws, looks like you have to set up your own timer. Yeah, that's the other thing is like, do I want to limit just the updates and then let the draws just happen as fast as possible? It's not hitting the CPU as much as I thought it was. So maybe that's better. We're getting around 11% CPU. Like actually starts at 11%, drops down to 6.57% CPU. We are hitting the graphics card quite heavily, but the update shouldn't be hitting the graphics card. That should all be CPU. It's the drawing stuff that's hitting the graphics card. And that's staying around 70%. You want to limit the draws. Looks like you have to set up your own timer. That's a little bit too bad. I'll probably like try this. Maybe we can look into like setting up our own game loop. Also, potentially, because that would allow us to do what we want to do and like control everything. So let's see. Last frame duration. I can modify the GGEZ loop. Ooh, interesting. Well, wait. Can I modify it in my code, or do I have to modify the source code? It's a standard loop. I guess, like, can I overwrite it? Interesting. All right. What I want to do here, so last frame duration. That's how long it was last time. Now I want to subtract the current one. Go to your main RS real quick and press F12 on my run call. Ooh, yeah, let's try that. Go to main RS. So here's our run call. So event run, and so here it is in GGEZ. And we see that entire code that we saw in the browser before. I mean, yes, I could update it here. But then every time I like update GGEZ, like, or if I deploy this to somebody else, they won't get this code because this is hidden. It's like that's the main problem. Yeah, you pulled a clone of, yeah, so I would have to do this if I wanted to update here and then have everyone else get it. Although that being said, this is, I need to get out of the mindset of like web development. Nobody that I give the target to would have would need to re-download GGEZ. They just get the binary. This stores the binary as soon as I run that. So I could totally do the sleep here. That is something that I could definitely do. And like this would be the appropriate place to put it too, where I could say, okay, let start equals, do I have timer? Create input. I don't seem to have timer here. So this would be, I guess, create timer instant now. Context, time context tick is how they set the timers. Well, that's, make sure you include timer context tick and context process event calls. These update GG's internal state. Interesting. I wonder how that works. Well, thank you. Where am I now? I'm in a timer context. So time down here, it's up. Okay, is that set to what the context is? Oh, and this is the last time it's used. Is there like a tick? No, no tick on here. You go to the tick, not the context. Yeah, that's true. Let's go here. Okay, so now instant, time instant now. Time since last. Duration now minus that. Frame durations, last instant, frame count. So that's all pretty standard timer for an event loop. Yeah, I mean, it looks pretty standard, I suppose. Now, if I want to, because they're running tick, so that gives me now is an instant, time instant now. Time since last is now subtract last instance. Frame durations, push, time since last, last instant equals now, frame count. I guess I can't really get that now because it's not returning anything. And they're not setting like this. So this is that delta that we saw. This is the, okay, we're setting up what we got last time. Yeah, so this is like TC frame durations latest. We take a look at time context. We have time instant, last instant, frame durations, frame count. Frame durations is a log buffer, but I don't think that it's storing for us. The initial delta time. Interesting. So this is around 60 frames per second. So that's our initial delta time that we're starting with. Yeah, so that's why you're saying that I should use my own timer for this. And I was hoping to avoid that. Because also, like, how would I use my own timer and integrate it into theirs? Because it's not a trait, right? Like they're looking for a specific trait, or am I gonna have to create my own run function too? Then is that what that means? Like if I come to our main, we have match event run. Yeah, so we're gonna have to create our own run function. In order to then have our own event loop. And our own timer and everything else. Otherwise, we run their run function, which I don't think I can overwrite. Then that has problems. Now, if we come back to what I was thinking of, let's see. Create. Do I have access to time? I have input. No. Is there run loop a method or a function? It looks like if we come to main, it looks like it's event run. And if we go to the event here, in event handler, so this is the trait event handler, quit, but here it's just a function run off of, it's not even a struct, it's just a function run. If it's just a function, you could basically copy it out and do it yourself. Ooh, I hadn't thought about that. So if I copy you, here, it's a good idea. Okay, so this goes all the way to the end. So if I take you, copy you, let's go into the main library. Let's create a new, we can just come down here to the very bottom, add a bunch of lines of code. What's the problem with that? Now we have pub function run. So if I don't do anything else right now, besides make this not terrible, let's also undo everything we did here. So we have a run function here. We're gonna need events loop. So use GGEZ events loop. All right, what else? Window event as well. And input, okay. So events loop. Oh, window event is not off of there. So use GGEZ event. Where does Windows event come from? Let's go back into run. So here, okay, so when it events loop. Interesting, okay. There is a use in the run function. You think it's part of that? Use create input, keyboard and mouse. So there's that. Come back to here and we just look at all these errors carefully. All right, so I don't need a search anymore. Oh, you're upset because I have like a half finished use statement up here. Let's take you away and that will give me you again. All right, so create input. So you need to not be create. This needs to be GGEZ. That gives me that. So window event. Oh, it couldn't find it at all, but we can go to the documentation and we could just probably find it here. So window event is off of event, winit event, window event. So use GGEZ event, winit event, window event. Then event. No variant named window event found for enum events event. And I think, do I need also the events off of winit event? Event, window event. Event like that. You're upset. Oh, the name event is now multiple times. So let's go ahead and not do that. Oh, so your event, window event. Oh, that's gross. I didn't want to like select that. I wanted like the exact same thing, but it looks like these are the only 2 times it's used. So I think this is gonna be GGEZ event, winit event. I think that's the correct winit event here. So continuing down, then we have quit. Cannot find function quit in this scope. What is quit coming from? Where did we see quit? Right in here. I mean, there's the quit event. Here's quit. Public function quit off of event. So then this is just event. So you are use GGEZ event quit. Okay, that makes that one go away. Then we have keyboard input and element state. And so, can I find you in event too? No, that'd be under input. So keyboard, can I find another one in here? So use GGEZ input. It's not exactly, because we want a keyboard input. What exactly was it? It was keyboard input, no underscore. So keyboard input is straight off of events. Okay. So use events. Oh, you're unhappy. No keyboard input in events. I thought I saw it in here. Pub struct keyboard input off of events. Yeah, so off of events. Quit is an event that RS. I think I got that, did I? And GGEZ, they globbed it all up with a self-used win it event star. Ooh, I guess I could do that too. Although it just like makes everything available, and I'd like to like at least see where these things are coming from. All right, so it comes from event, I think. So this would be GGEZ event. Not that one. It's events. Events. Is there another event here? I don't see another events here. Ooh, Chantilly, thank you for that. When we get this loop running, then we'll try that algorithm for it, and I think hopefully that will work. All right, so GGZ. Oh, there's no events. Where is events coming from? Win it events. Oh, the win it. Win it event. So here's window event, keyboard input. Then we want element state. Where does element state come from? Win it event. Okay, element state. Mouse scroll delta. You know, it's easier just to look in here. Mouse scroll delta, win it event. It's nice like seeing all these red disappear every time I do this. DPI. DPI. Ooh, I'm not seeing that at all. So that must be failed to use or undeclared type or module DPI. Is that not part of GGEZ? Wait, that's it? DPI. Oh, let's see. Let's see your. This is a window event, mouse scroll delta, pixel delta, DPI. Thank you, Chantilly. Logical position. Where does. Okay. Did I misspell it when I was searching for it? No. Oh, and it wouldn't be that. It would be colon. In here. So this is in the window event. So I want you. I don't find you. I copied this from here, right? No, I copied it from the run function. Let's go back to main. Now let's search for you again. Okay, so here is DPI. So come on. There we go. Click into here. DPI comes from winit. Oh, wow. Lots of documents for this. Winit. Okay, so it comes from winit. I'm looking to see if there's like a function DPI in here. But I'm guessing it's. Why is that not in the documentation? DPI. No DPI in here, okay. It's literally a file DPI. Wait a second. Where do you come? Is there like a use that brings in DPI? Use winit self DPI. Okay. Winit as opposed to winit event. Okay. Use. Like, that's not something I can do. Is there a GGEZ? Winit? DPI? No. That's not available. Where is it getting winit from? Like, so it's using winit. Is winit something that, let's see, winit. Let's take a look at winit here. Yeah, there's no winit that I see. Just a winit event. Ooh, okay, here it is. There's an external dependency winit. And I bet this has DPI on it. So we're gonna need to get winit and add it to our dependencies. So we'll go to car, we'll go to toml and add winit in. Oh, and apparently this, so I have the crates package installed. Apparently this broke for me. But see what version this is. 0.19.5. Okay, so save view, and now in our main library, we can use just straight up winit DPI like that. And that should be happier. As soon as it figures out how to rebuild. Ooh, let me return this on because I forgot. Therefore, you can now highlight lines if you want to show me something. You're white. You haven't figured out. Ha! There's your highlight. I don't think that you can undo the highlight. I think I have to do that myself with a right-click move highlight. All right, so back down to here. We're getting close. Event, device event. So no variant, device event. Yeah, it's super nice. Clark.io, I believe, is the one who created it. Let's head back to here. This is device event off of winit event. All right, so device event, save that. Then, oh, that didn't work for you? That's not used. It uses a different event here. Okay, so, oh, right. There's a win event device event and a win event device event. Okay, cool. So we want that one, not this one. We want a win event. Okay. Use GGEZ event win event device event. There we go. That should make it happier. I mean, or not. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let's back to main. Back to run. So you can find this is event device event. You come up here. So pub enum. Oh, this is just straight up no. Okay, so it's in winit events event device event. That's what it is. Let's just use it here. So GGEZ winit. So winit, I think it was events, winit event, and then I think you'll work. Yeah, I'll make you go away. All right, next up, awakened. No variant or associated item name awakened. All right, let's find awakened in here. So winit event. Cool, so we're gonna have to do this for all of them, aren't we? So GGEZ event, a winit event, and then like that. Just copy you, go to home, we'll put you in too. Okay, so that's getting closer. Now we have this context. So if CTX conf field conf of struct GGEZ context is private. Okay, handle gamepad. We're not using a gamepad, so you go away. That's my way of solving that problem. No errors. Okay, here we go. We're now going to go back to main. We are going to okay, so here's my game. Let's also bring in run like that. And now we're going to just match run. So now we're just going to run our run instead. No errors. Let's see if this works. Hey, look at that. We've got a running game. So this is now working with our run. Okay, that's cool. So now, Chantilly, let's use your algorithm in that run that we created. So that's right here. So what we want to do here, Chantilly, you just copy what you said here. Here's the beginning of our run loop. from Chantilly Cake. All right, so we have sleep time equals total number of frames per second minus 1 times time of each frame. So total number of frames per second. So that's our target frames per second. So this would be like 60 or so. So that would be sleep time equals 60 minus 1. So minus 1 times total number of frames is how many frames are currently. Wait, how do we know what the target is then? How many frames? Oh, this is like, isn't this our target frames per second? So if I want to limit it to 60 frames per second, it's because that's what I want to do. I want to limit to 60 frames per second. I don't know if this is going to do that. The formula is for 1 frame per second. It's a little bit slow. Okay, so this is gonna be 60. Got it. Okay, that makes a lot more. That makes a lot more sense. I was wondering where the when was coming from. Okay, so this is actually going to be the total number of frames per second. Total number. What does this mean? Is this because this is the time of each frame? I guess like for me, I would almost imagine that right now I want to do like let start like start time equals this is gonna be like time instant now, like standard time instant now, which is a duration. And then we want to get the end time at the end. So down at the bottom here. So let end time equals standard time instant now. Okay, so now I have the beginning of this loop and the end of this loop. And I could subtract them. So then let our delta is going to be, the end time is always going to be a larger duration. So I can do end time minus start time. Okay, so that gives me the difference between there. And now I want to subtract sleep time, but I don't know what you mean by total number of frames per second. Because I don't have that calculation. This is in 1 frame. Like this is in a single frame here. And I want to figure out how much time to sleep at the end of this. So here's the difference between, or I guess this isn't the delta. This is the frame time. So like the frame time is this duration. Then I want to subtract our target frames per second. So let sleep time equals total number of frames per second, how many frames in average it currently takes to run in a second. I don't think that that's a good idea because some frames will be like really long and I don't want to like make any like jarring waits. Like what if it takes a really long time to draw out a tree? I don't want to like that to cause everything else to wait, if that makes sense. I just want to like wait on this one if I need to. Okay. What do I know right now? So I'm within a loop. So I know when I start the frame and when I end the frame. Also, Bare Knuckle Waffle, you sent a gist from Bare Potato. Oh, it's called Sleepy. That's cool. Let me share that out here. Okay, so this is so our tick per second, duration from millis. Let timer, let me. I thought you had a. I thought I tried doing a constant like this and it yelled at me. That would be 3 frames per second to be just changed to 3 to 30. Oh, okay. So ticks per second, we want it to be like 60 or whatever I want. We have our duration. Let mute timer equals instant now. Okay, so that's we have our start. We have our end. We get our input, we update. We sleepy time the timer. Okay. So we figure out what our elapsed is. So that's our elapsed right here. Then we're going to sleep duration from millisecond 0. We're going to figure out if our tick, okay, if we need to sleep or if we've spent too much time in the sleep or not. Then we're going to sleep. So tick minus elapsed. So tick is the duration from milliseconds, 1000. Okay, so this is in milliseconds, our maximum tick time, minus the elapsed. Okay, so this would be our essentially, all right, so I do like that. Let's see if we can implement this. So this is gonna be you over here on the left, close you. Let's come up to the top here. Let's create, okay, so our const, we're gonna have our target FPS equals, I guess we're gonna set this to be AU64, and we're gonna make that 60. And then this is, I guess, like a tick duration. You just feed it as our from milliseconds for your sanity. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, so const. Then we're gonna have. So this is gonna be FPS. I guess this is really like the target FPS duration. So target FPS duration, which is a, I think it's a GGEZ. No, it's a standard time duration equals standard time duration from millis. Okay, and this is 1000 divided by target FPS. Save that. I thought I tried this before and it didn't. It yelled at me about using duration like that, but I guess I'm wrong. Okay, so we get our start time, which is an instant now. So we have start time. We do our entire loop thing. Yeah, I must have put a fluid value or something in it. Okay, so let's And then we're going to come into here, elapsed. So here's our end time, our frame time. So let's change this to elapsed. Time equals, okay, end time minus start time. Interesting. So yeah, I also found that like the minus actually works with durations. This should also work for us. This is going to be our sleep time. Duration from millis 0. Okay, so how long we're going to sleep? So we're initializing the sleep. So let mute sleep time duration from. Oh, right, I need to do it with standard time duration from millis 0. Okay, so initialize a duration, and we're going to set it to 0. So we're not going to sleep any amount of time. Then we're going to do our check here. If elapsed is less than our target frames per second, okay, so if our elapsed time, if that is less than right, so if we haven't spent as much time as we want our target frames per second, and I think I named this our tick would be this target FPS duration. So if elapsed time is less than target FPS duration, then sleep equal, okay, so we're going to set our sleep time and set that equal to be the tick minus elapsed. Okay, so that's going to be our target FPS duration minus the elapsed time. And then we're going to go ahead and sleep at this point in time. So I think this is timer sleep, and then our duration is going to be our sleep time. You call instant now at the end. I don't know if that's helpful with, oh, you're returning this timer, but you're not doing anything with it. That's resetting your timer. Timer equals, oh, because you have that outside of the loop. Okay, I'm doing this inside of the loop, so I think this should work. Let's see if this does work. No is the answer. Our frames per second is still like 180 or so. I mean, this is better than the last time we tried to do a sleep, but it's not sleeping. My FPS meter is wrong. Oh no. Okay. Is it because it's the average? How do I make sure that's correct? In my main library, I guess that would make sense if my FPS meter is wrong. Let's go ahead and get rid of that because we don't need it anymore. Oh, when you clone GGEZ, you had it limited to 1 frames per second in update. And visually, you could only see 1 update per second. Well, wait a second. Let's see. In our draw, we have self-draw FPS. We hand it the context. If we come here to draw FPS, the way that we are calculating our FPS is off of timer, we're getting FPS. It's still calculating in GGEZ regardless of the number of updates. How would I do my own frames per second then? So this isn't an actual frames per second. I could store frames per second. You can tie it into sleep time or alongside of it. So my frames per second, I need to increment. Okay, so if I increment, okay, so we don't have a target frames per second anymore here. Let's say I just do our current like frames. We want FPS. They're tracking something that essentially exists in time outside of anything in update draw. So if I want to calculate frames per second, every single tick we increase frames. And frames per second is an average, right? So across a second, I want to then calculate that. So do I need like a vector of frames? Do I need a vector of like frames? And I have like some kind of struct that has like, okay, the time that it started. And then every time like a second rolls over, I remove all of the frames from that vector that like we don't really care about anymore. Essentially, you can do a dumb counter and report from that every second. And then restart that again. Okay, yeah, I could definitely do that. So this is like a frames equals frames. If I do like a U 128 to give myself the maximum amount here. If you want to track an average, yes, you can have a vector that's in length. Okay, but if I want like an instant, let's say I want an instant. So if you had 116 milliseconds stored in a vector, you know your average is 16. I guess like and then I would empty out the vector at the beginning of every second. If you want instant, just do the math on the last or current frame. And I need to figure out, okay, so if I have frames here, we set up frames to be 0. So we start U there. And our draw FPS, let FPS equals, this is just going to be self.frames. Okay, so that's going to be fine because we just formatted that. So basically the current frame time took 16 milliseconds. You divide 1000 by that, and that gives you a frames per second value. Okay. It'll be volatile, but it'll be the frames per second. All right. Well, I don't necessarily care if it's like perfect. I just want to see like the number of whether or not that is. And then, so at the end here, we're going to increment, so self dot frames plus equals to 1. Oh no, I don't have access to self here. That's a, okay, in update. I'll have to do it in update. I'll have to do something like self dot frames plus equals to 1, like that. Now that will just be a number that goes up forever. Yes, the context is exposed. You can make your sleep a method. So if I do this, our FPS should just go up forever, but it's not going to show us like Yeah, it's just going to go up like this. It's just now an incrementing number. I now need to, at the end of every second, reset the frames per second. So I think I can get a duration. I think I can get a duration. Oh, I think it's like the time since the start off of timer here. Off of timer. Time since start. Returns the time since the game was initialized as reported by the system clock. So I can get time since start and divide that by 1000. So if I want like a single second, so here, we'll do a single second here. So const 1 second, which is a standard time duration equals standard time duration from millis 1000. Okay, so this is 1 second. Then in our update method, we have our increase our frames by 1. Maybe I'll do that at the beginning up here. Oop. Okay, so increase by 1, and at the end, here, let's empty out the frames per second. Reset it to 0 if we hit, if we have a second. So that means our duration, if our duration divided by 1000 is equal to 0. Okay. Oh, we probably want like a target FPS and like track this. So like frames and like reset frames at, which is going to be a I don't know if this is going to be a duration. What does this give me? It gives me a duration. So this is going to be a standard time duration. Reset frames at is a standard time duration from millis. We're just going to say 0 to begin with. So this is right, nothing, like right away. And then, actually, no, this will be 1000. So at 1000. Now an update, if our duration has come up, so if self dot reset frames at, if that is now greater than or equal to self, this will be time since start. So timer time since start and the context. Okay, so if we're greater than this, self dot frames, reset this to 0, and then we're also going to reset. So self dot reset frames at. Isn't that going to be right when it's about to clear? This should be like, so every 1000, it should reset to 0. Oh, you know what? And then we're gonna need to store the frames per second that we got to. So like this is the frames, and then our FPS is gonna be like a U. This doesn't need to be 128. This needs to be like something like U64. Okay, so FPS. FPS is 0 here. Then in our update, so self.frames. So before we do this, we're going to do self.fps equals self.frames. So copy that over, reset frames to 0. Self.reset frames at is now going to need to be reset to like the 1,000 milliseconds from now. So that's going to be our timer. So timer, time since start, context plus 1 second, like that. All right, and then FPS is what we want to actually do here. So draw FPS instead of self.frames. This is FPS. Isn't time since start since the beginning of the game? It is, but that's why I'm doing this reset frames at. So I can just constantly update that. It's like, okay, and 1 second from now in that time, then check this at. So I think this should work. Well, clearly our frames per second is greater than 1. Am I not incrementing it? If all you need is instant now, and later you can check to see if it's bigger than a second. I mean, so clearly I'm not sleeping that much. Our FPS is actually higher than that. But unfortunately, I've not like set it correctly here. Like this math is wrong. This is basically what I want. So like, okay, the next time I check this, like reset frames, if it's now greater than or equal to time since start, then time since start plus 1 second, because this gives me a duration. So I want 1 second after that. This resets. Am I not increasing frames plus equals to 1? Okay, so I'm increasing the frames. I can't imagine that I'm like sleeping because like the graphics are updating. So like the sleep can't be happening. Like the sleep must be happening properly. Self to FPS, self to frames, reset frames at. You can say elapsed equals instant now, duration since, time tracked, variable. Well, that's down at the bottom though. This is like my frame counter isn't working correctly. If elapsed is greater than duration from milliseconds, 1000. Okay, so I can do an instant now, duration since, FPS 0, counter, FPS equal counter, okay. Which is why you said it's a tie-in with my sleep. So if elapsed is greater than a duration from milliseconds, Okay, so going back far enough. Elapsed, set that equal to instant now duration since time tracker. Time tracked. If elapsed is greater than duration from milliseconds. So I'm already doing the timer checks. Yeah, I'm doing the timer checks in this run here, because that's where I get like the start time and this sleep time, or this elapsed time. So I figure out like, here's what the elapsed time is. But because I don't have self, that's why I was like really tying that in there, so I can draw it to the screen. I'm curious, is this really not updating like my FPS? All right, I'm gonna try one thing here. I'm gonna do a print line, but then after that, I am gonna have to go for my stand up. So you can use the same basic format to time your FPS in update. Yeah, let's see. Yes, or just frames. Self dot frames. You're gonna have to be a reference, so I don't take ownership of you. So I think that'll work. Let's run cargo run. Yeah, frames is not updating. It's always being reset to 0. So this is happening too often. So reset at. This is happening like all the time. So you use the basic format to time your FPS and update. You'll be getting it from self instead. I'll have to think about that, sort of like wrap my head around. I don't know, maybe it's just streamer math, and that's why I'm not unable to like sort of like figure that out. Also, I'm thinking about like, I have to start my day soon. All right, but if I run this in release mode, I'm curious about what my I lost my other thing. Let me turn on the task manager. That's over there. All right. Task manager. We are now at 4.9 CPU and 50% GPU. Okay, so we are significantly slower, under significantly lower resources used. So like, we're successfully doing something. It's just that my frames per second is still very, very high and fast. This game is still very fast here in its updates. So I don't know how much like I've actually like done with that. I don't know if that's the I don't know if it's like helpful. Like what my limitation actually is for frames per second. Need to flip my if statement. Is that it? Just right here? If time since start. So is it less than or equal? Or is it down here? Greater than. I don't know which if statement it is. I mean, that looks faster. Okay. Anyways, I've got 3 minutes until my stand up, so I don't have time. Anyways, thank you everybody for stopping by. I think we're like super close with this. I don't know if I'm gonna continue with this for next time. Stand up comedy, I wish. Stand up agile. So with that, I'm going to switch over to the ending screen. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by and watching. I'm doing these every morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Time for about an hour 15 or so. Today was a little bit longer. And with that, have a great day, and I will see you next time.